The play begins by introducing its central character, Troy Maxson, a large, thick black man of 53 years, and his longtime friend, Bono. The year is 1957, and the two are garbage collectors that have come to Troy's yard on Friday, payday, to talk and drink. We learn that Troy is a hard worker and that he used to be a talented baseball player. Troy's wife, Rose, comes out as she's preparing supper and tells Troy that their son, Corey, is being recruited by colleges for football. Troy is skeptical. Troy's other son from a previous relationship, Lyons, comes by to borrow money. Troy is also skeptical of his pursuit of music. In Scene 2, Rose is singing about Jesus as a fence that protects her. Troy joins her for breakfast and complains that Corey is at football practice instead of helping him build a fence around the yard. Gabriel, Troy's younger brother, shows up and tells them that he found his own place. Gabriel was injured in World War II, and he now believes that he is the angel Gabriel. He carries a trumpet with him and a basket of fruit that he sells for a living. We learn that Troy was only able to afford the house they live in because of money Gabriel got for his injury. In Scene 3, Troy and Corey cut wood for the fence. Corey mentions baseball, and Troy talks about how teams don't play their colored players. Corey mentions some black players who do play, and Troy tells Corey that he hit 7 home runs off at Satchel Paige in the Negro Leagues. Troy tells Corey he must quit football so he can focus on his job and school. They argue. Corey leaves and Rose enters. She tells Troy to let up on him and reminds him that the world is different than it used to be and that he doesn't need to be so hard on his son. In Scene 4, it's Friday again. We learn that Troy has been promoted to truck driver at his work. Lyons comes over to pay Troy back, but he won't accept the money. Troy tells him about his youth, and we learn that Troy went to prison for 15 years, which is why he never got the chance to play pro baseball. He had a hard youth, and his father was abusive. Corey comes home upset because Troy has told his coach that he can no longer play football. Act 2 begins with Corey telling Rose he's not quitting the football team. Troy bails Gabriel out of jail, where he had been due to charges of disturbing the peace. Troy and Bono saw wood for the fence. Bono hints that he knows Troy has been cheating with a woman named Alberta and warns Troy not to mess things up with Rose. Troy agrees that Rose is a good woman, but admits that he is seeing Alberta. We learn that Rose wanted the fence around the yard. Troy tells Rose that he and Alberta are expecting a baby. They fight. Troy grabs Rose roughly, and Corey walks in. Corey attacks Troy, and Troy warns him off. In Scene 2, it's 6 months later. Troy still lives with Rose and gives her his paychecks, but he doesn't come home after work. We learn that Troy signed papers to commit Gabriel to an institution and gets half his money. Alberta successfully delivers the child, but she dies during the birth. Troy rages at death, telling it to stay on its side of the fence. Scene 3 shows Troy coming home with his infant daughter, Raynell, and asking for Rose's help. Rose agrees to take care of her, but says that Troy is now a womanless man. In Scene 4, it's 2 months later. Lyons is helping Corey find a job. Rose is going to a church bake sale, and Bono is hanging out with other workers. Troy is isolated, continuing to do his job of truck driving in a white suburb, and has nobody left to talk to when he is home. We learn that he has finally finished his fence. Troy and Corey get into an argument, and Corey threatens Troy with his own bat. Troy takes the bat away and gets ready to swing, but stops himself and tells Corey to get out. In Scene 5, it's 1965, and Troy is dead. Raynell is growing a garden, impatient for it to flourish. Corey is in the Marines, while Lyons is in prison. Both men are home for Troy's funeral. Corey tells Rose that he won't go to the funeral because he needs to get out from under Troy's shadow. Gabriel comes over ready to blow his horn. He says he's going to tell St. Peter to open the gates for Troy. As the title of the play implies, there are many literal and figurative fences in the play. For example, there's the fence that Troy builds around his yard to keep things out that might threaten his family. Also, there are the fences in prison that kept Troy confined. These fences represent the invisible barriers that have kept Troy from getting beyond the life that his father created for him, and those that his own sons struggle against. Finally, there are the gates of heaven that may open for Troy, which represents the only way out of the confinement of his life. August Wilson's play, Fences, tells the story of Troy Maxson, an African-American garbage collector and ex-convict who once had a promising future in baseball. His circumstances as a youth led him to prison, after which he settled down with Rose and made a family. He's building a fence around his yard to keep this family safe, but it figuratively threatens to confine his family to the same fate.